All right, we're here today with Pastor Tommy Nelson of Denton Bible Church. Tommy, thank you for spending a few minutes with us here as we talk about preaching and ministry for just a little bit.
You bet.
You've been at Denton Bible now how many years?
Let's see, since 1977, so I guess that'd be about 46 years.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And as I've shared with you before, from a distance, you were one of my early preaching role models. Came across your cassette tapes when I was in college and began to get those and listen to those each week. And I didn't realize that there was such a thing as expository preaching, didn't know the term, didn't know what it meant. All I knew was as a young minister, I just wanted to preach the text. And the Lord brought several men into my life from a distance as role models. You were one of them. And what I loved about hearing you preach is you just went verse by verse through the books of the Bible and said what the Bible said. I didn't have a category in my mind as a young college student for what that meant, other than it helped me know the Bible better. And to this day, all these 30 years later, I'm grateful for your ministry and the ministry of Denton Bible Church, which has been such a great church for so many years. A couple of questions about preaching and ministry. Could you first walk us through just a typical weekly schedule for you as a pastor? I know that not every week's the same and strange things come up, but if there is a typical week, at least how you try to organize your week, what that would look like.
You know, on Sunday after the service, I'll go home and I'll immediately take the text I'm going to take for next week. I'll immediately go to it, and just while I'm sitting down there and I'm energized, I'll start studying right when I get home. Then I'll take a nap. And then by Monday, I will have that text studied. I will know what the words are, what the sentences, verses mean, what the paragraph, how it contributes to the verse, what the immediate context contributes to the paragraph, how it fits in the whole of biblical theology. And so you kind of go big, bigger, biggest, okay? So I'll know intellectually by Monday what that text says. And I always take Monday off. I go light on Saturday and pretty light on Monday, unless I'm just sitting talking to a bunch of guys in Oklahoma, just a light day. But I'll have that text studied. And then now every day I'll wake up in the dark. I like to get up. I got up this morning at 3:38. And so I love to get out in the dark and just spend time with God and read and study and pray. And then I'll go back to bed for about an hour because I'm an old man. And then by 8 o'clock, I'll go down to the gym. I've done that since 1964. Were you a human in 64?
I was not. I was not.
Or you were a human. I might have worked out with your daddy while he was thinking of making you a human. And so I'll go work out. I'll lift weights 6 days a week. And then I'll usually go at some point, I'll go walk. All right. Just a human being needs rhythm. They need rhythm. Israel had 3 movements toward Jerusalem every year: 6 feasts, 1 fast, Sabbath, sabbatical year. They had rhythm in their days. And so I'll go work out, and then I'll come back. I'll come up to the church, and I will just check in. I stay out of the church office. I got that admonition from W.A. Criswell. Stay out of the church office. He said church offices have Velcro, and they will pull you in. You'll never leave. And so I'll just walk by and check in with money guy. Hey, we broke? No, doing all right. With HR guy. Hey, is anybody suing us? Great, fantastic. Kendall, do something musical, anything. What do you say? And I'll just kind of check in with because they know stuff I don't know. And so I don't hang around the office. I'll answer emails and whatever. I don't put on a suit, don't put on a tie. I just check in and I Yeah, everybody doing okay? Any major things happening? Security guys, did anybody threaten me yesterday? Any Muslim transgenders were trying to kill me or anything? So I'll just kind of check in. Then a lot of times I'll wander over to the staff where they are, and I'll just kind of mosey through, drink coffee, just bull with them, how things doing, just visiting with them. And and then I'll go home, have lunch, and then after lunch, I'll study. I teach 6 times a week, 2 Sunday and then 4 during the week to key people. And so I'll do just good old pragmatic study to make sure that when I teach, what I'm saying is spot on, that it is true, and any alternative readings are this, and this is what it means. Because no matter how bad your church is doing, you're okay when you control that pulpit, when you know that what's going through it. When Satan gets the pulpit, Satan's got your church. Christ holds the stars in his right hand, the angels of the churches, the messengers of the churches. And so the star has to be bright. And so I'll make sure that I'm teaching truth. And then I'll generally go walk or something. And by that time, it's about 4 o'clock. And I'll go to the nurseries and see what kind of flowers they got. I'm a gardener. I'll get on my grasshopper mower and I'll go sculpt I love to run you ever had a grasshopper mower? They cost like $600,000.
I'm not, but I share your love for mowing.
I love to mow. It's therapy. All right.
Yes. Yes.
And I'll maybe go take a limb lopper. I love limb lopping. And so I'll go through my property and lop a limb or two. And then I will, I love to get Netflix. You know what that is?
I do.
With a Roku. Okay. And so I love to look at documentaries, and I'll flip through and see if there's a really good document. I watched one yesterday, 2 days ago, on the Boston Marathon bombing. When they found those guys within 4 days.
Yeah.
And I just watched that. Really interesting. I never watch TV without reading. I can't waste time watching TV unless it's a real good murder mystery. I'm real into murders because always they'll on those murder shows, the guy will get away with it, but they'll find one follicle of an eyelash.
Right.
And they'll trace him and get him. So I like to watch the good guys win. I do not watch the news because I've seen it already. I know what's going to happen. So I've already seen it. When you take God out of a culture, history is nothing but dominoes. So I know how they're going to fall. So I don't mess with it. But I will do just then reading. I'm reading Bruce Shelley's Church History for the 6th time. I'm reading Dawn to Decadence by Jacques Barzun on Modern Man. I'm reading the biography of Malcolm Muggeridge by a guy named Hunt. I will, what else am I reading? The major figures at Jamestown. I'm reading that. I'll have a number of books that are just, I like nonfiction because they contribute to you. And so I enjoy just reading. A pastor's major mentor is the library. He pick up the parchments and the books, Paul said, bring them to me. And so I got books and parchments. And so I'll do that until time to eat in the evening. My wife and I'll eat. I also have to listen to some folk music, a little Kingston Trio, Chad Mitchell, Peter, Paul, Mary. I'll listen to bluegrass, just enjoy just good music. And again, while I'm reading, all right. And then in the evening time, I'll preserve that. I don't give away many evenings.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine just to relax, to be with my wife, play with my dog, Sally, and read. Pastors are readers. That's who we are. That's the word scholar comes from skole, that means leisure. A guy that's a pastor has to have leisure. He's got to know more about the Bible than the audience, and he's got to know more about the audience than the audience. One of the best things you can read is How We Got to the Chaos We're In, book by Carl Trueman called The Triumph of the Modern Self.
Oh, yeah.
Vodi Bakum has some really good stuff on critical race theory, on how we got there. Luke Ferry on the history of thought. You don't know if he's a Calvinist or an atheist till you get to the end of the book and you find out he's insane. So I like to, periodically I'll read Calvin's Institutes that are very worshipful. I'll just enjoy these. So, and then I'll go to bed, and when I go to bed, I'll go to bed reading something, and then I'll wake up in the dark and I'll do it again.
Yeah.
And so I never want a day to go by that I don't know that I know what I didn't know before. I'm also reading a book about this thick called War and Peace by Tolstoy. It's the book that everybody owns and nobody reads, okay, because it's so huge. And I just said, I'm going to read that book before I die. Chapters are usually only a page and a half. They're real short chapters. It's interesting. And it's really it moves on the same domino all the way through the book. It doesn't change locales or something like Larry McMurtry does. He's my favorite author, but it stays on the domino, one after the other. So I'm reading. I'll read it before I die, probably. And so every day go lift weights, every day go run, every day learn something, every day be in the Word, and every day have fun. Mike, what do you do for fun?
Yeah, our schedules be pretty similar. I'm at the gym 6 days a week. I take Wednesday off.
Always have fun. Oklahoma guys always go play basketball.
Yeah.
All right. Because towns aren't big enough to have 11 people on the football team.
That's right.
So you go play basketball.
That's right. That's it.
You want to go hunting, want to go shooting, want to go something. You want to have fun every day.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. What would you say? You've been preaching at your church now for close to these 50 years.
Almost. Yeah.
How would you say your preaching has changed through the years, if it has?
I preach slower. I'm more, when I first started, I was a real strong exhorter to move them to action, because young pastors want to be successful. And to a young pastor, success is numbers and motion. Mm-hmm. So I push. And then you get older and you get discouraged seeing if you're always looking for results as a pastor, you're going to quit the ministry, because you plant, Apollos waters, God causes the growth. Yeah. See, plants, he who waters are nothing but God who causes the growth. And so you have to make sure that you sow a seed that is absolutely true. And then you water it good, then you walk away. In the morning it sprouts, how he himself knoweth not. And so as guys go on in ministry, they begin to become more and more artists of truth rather than motivators. That's what I think. And so I have become a little bit more studious, analytical, emphatic, and condemning of that which goes against the Bible. Earlier, I was the guy that if you were a FCA Campus Crusade, you wanted to bring me in, I could motivate you. And then slowly and surely, I got down to hermetically sealing the Bible and putting it in their memories to go off. That's kind of how I've changed.
Yeah, that's great. One last question. When you've been in the place for, I've been in our church here for 23 years and thankful the Lord's given me that much time here in one church. But you've been at your church double the time that I've been here. So I wonder if you might just share briefly, what does it take to stay at a place so long? What are some keys to being able to have that kind of longevity in one place and just build your life in that one ministry?
To stay, and I'm a one place guy. That's just the way I am. Some guys love to move and get a work going. I like to paint the Sistine Chapel that takes you a decade. I like to spend time. If you're going to stay at one place, you better be training your leader, your staff, and your elders, because those guys can shut you down. So you better have good leaders. So I teach my staff every week. When I stay close to my elders, I know who they are. They're mostly our guys that have gone through my program. You also want to stay at one place, you want to have stars. Those who have insight will shine like the stars of heaven, and those who lead the many to righteousness like the stars forever and ever. You want to produce stars, and that is by teaching a lot of people well on Sunday, but then having small groups and having a group of guys that are handpicked, that are can't miss SEAL Team 6 guys. That, in other words, Paul taught a lot of people, but we all know who Paul's guys were. Jesus had his boys. And so you want a hand-picked group of guys. It's kind of like when you make moonshine. You ever do that, Mike?
No.
When you make moonshine,
that's not one of the hobbies.
You boil the mash to separate the alcohol, but then you have to have that little distiller that gets it out and puts it in the jug. Probably about 30% of your church are going to go on to really be disciple makers. But you want to have a way to get them out and get them in the jug by giving them a chance to do what a standard that not everybody can do. Mm-hmm. And so I always make sure that I have young guns. We have BTCP, Bible Training Center for Pastors. I've got my staff. I've got a few boys. I drive to Decatur about twice a month to meet with a guy that I led to Christ, who is a fanatic. He's on the beam. That's what keeps you. Paul said, share your joy with me. Rejoice in the same way as me and share your joy. And so you've got to be a guy that has staying power, and that's going to come by having a few people. Another thing you got to make sure is to realize a great point. How old are you, Mike?
I'm 49. I'll be 50 in
All
the
right,
summer.
You're about as old as my kids. I'm going to give you a point to make sure you don't quit. You are loyal to your people. Amen.
Yeah.
I'm loyal to them.
Got to be.
You will assume they're going to be as loyal to you as you are to them. And that's going to get you in trouble because they not all are. And they're going to break your heart at some point. Have you had guys go south on you yet?
Oh, sure. For sure.
Okay. That is the great eliminator of pastors, They're called the killer D's. One is you have disqualification because you're sleeping with somebody else's wife. The other is deceit, where you get into error and you get into something weird and become David Koresh, all right? Or you get divisive, where you're just so hostile against people that they get rid of you. Or you are distracted to where you'll get off to where you got a second job selling real estate, and pretty soon you forget what you're doing. Or you get discouraged. And or another thing is called danger, that you get afraid to take a stance. But the big one is discouragement. It's been said that if Satan had a garage sale, he would never sell discouragement, because it's such a useful tool of just getting down. How would you like to pastor the Galatians or the Corinthians or Ephesians, Colossians, getting into Gnosticism, or the Corinthians that had followed false teachers and got a whole, what do they call it? Fifth column within your church against you. That was the Corinthians. Or Timothy, who has to kindle afresh the gift of God. Paul or Philippi, a couple of women that can't get along, Euodia and Syntyche, or as one guy called them, odious and soon touchy. All right. And so Paul always wrote to problems, or the Thessalonians that have an eschatological problems, thinking the tribulation's already started and their dead aren't going to know the rapture. See, and so Paul's always correcting these things. The seven churches of Revelation, only two of them don't get, censured. Smyrna and Philadelphia, only two of them don't. And so you're going to have guys that are going to go south, and it's going to break your heart. And that's what's going to make guys quit. Or you ever known pastors that get keel hauled by their leaders? They'll go to a church, and all of a sudden a couple of leaders go with them and they kick him out. And the next thing they're doing, they're selling, whole life over in Yukon. And so I make sure that I don't put too much weight on the fact that these guys are going to stay faithful to me. Paul said, consider us as servants of God and stewards of the mysteries of Christ. In this case, moreover, it is required of stewards to be found trustworthy. Therefore, it matters not if men should examine us. I do not even examine myself. The one who examines me is God. And so you have to preach for a one-man audience, and that is God, because you're going to end up hated or whatever. And the more popular you get, the more hated you become. And so you got to make sure. And another thing you got to make sure, does your wife still like you, Mike?
She does. Strangely enough, she does.
Do your kids still like you?
They actually do.
Make sure your kids
God's grace.
don't hate God because he takes their daddy.
Yeah.
My sons, I always stayed close to them. My wife, I stay close to. They're your cheering section. I've got 6 grandkids. I stay close to them. They're your cheering section. So if you'll do those things, you'll hang around a long time. And always make sure your chief joy is your Bible.
Yeah.
That's got to be your greatest delight, is to get home and get in your Bible. I read my Bible through every year, take notes on it, give it to a grandchild or a nephew, then go get me a new one. I like the Zondervan Study Bible. or the MacArthur Study Bible, the Thomas Nelson Study Bible, no relation to me, Ryrie Study Bible. They're really good. The study Bibles that are out now are worth 2 years of seminary. The Thomas Nelson Study Bible is uncanny, the things that you can learn from it.
Mm-hmm.
I just tell guys, get that study Bible and just study it. Zondervan, Thomas Nelson, MacArthur, they're astounding. The Falwell, he has a study Bible. They're astounding, the things you can learn. I mean, we didn't learn at seminary those things. The only thing out was a Schofield and a Ryrie. So they just got great study Bibles. So I love my Bible. I've never lost my love for my Bible. I've never recovered from the idea of a Bible that I can do insider trading. You know what insider trading is?
Right. Sure.
Get Martha Stewart sent to prison. It's because the future. You got insider knowledge and you bank on it. Well, the Bible lets you do insider trading.
Yeah.
And that's why I love to read in an airport, on a plane, at an airport terminal, in noisy places, because I feel closer to God. Because I know that with all the idiots running around me, I've got an invisible force field. You ever read about Wonder Woman and the Invisible Girl? She's got this force shield. And so I can be in my bubble that nobody can enter into. And I can tell you what the rest of the world is doing simply by knowing what's in that bubble.
Yeah.
So I love to read my Bible in crowded places because I feel so intelligent.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Thank you so much for sharing that. We appreciate so much your wisdom and insight. Appreciate you.
All right.